All right, everyone, welcome to the show. This is Tennessee Wildcast. Good to have you back here again. Sitting around the table, going to have a good discussion today on turkeys and on diseases. We'll explain all that more in a little bit. Got Jason right here, Harmon. We'll get to our guest in just a little bit, okay? Of course, Todd's back here helping us out today. We're glad you're in here. We hope you're telling your friends about us. I'll let Jason tell you where all we are because he remembers it better than I do. He's a lot younger than I am. So where are we, Jason?
That's right, Doug. We're on our website at twrA.org. Visit there. You can find us. We're going to be on iTunes, or we're on iTunes. We're on TWRA.tv. You can watch us there.
And it doesn't cost anything there.
Doesn't cost a thing. And then if you're on SoundCloud, you can listen to us there. So there's a lot of places.
Yeah, all right. We want you to tell your friends about us because this is about you, really. We talk to folks here at TWRA, good biologists, wildlife officers, and many others here about what's going on at the agency. And, of course, that will help you out in the field, help you hopefully on the water some, at least have an understanding of what's going on here, and you're not always guessing because it's difficult for you to come to commission meetings and always keep up with everything that's going on by reading. So that's why we have this show. And Jason, you know what we need to talk about is you getting out hunting.
Yeah, I'm about ready. Turkey season's
here.
Yeah.
It is here. The kids started hunting last weekend. Of course, this weekend it opens for everybody across the state. I know everybody's excited. 44 days to get birds this year. So I hope everyone does well. And last year, and I'll talk to our guest here in a minute about this, but last year 31,000 plus birds taken in the spring season, and that's pretty good.
That's awesome, yeah.
And I know I asked you this last time, but what can you hunt?
A bearded turkey.
There you go. Bearded birds.
Could be a bearded hen, could be a
every now
tom.
And then. So. Maybe we can get our guest today to talk about that a little bit. Our guest is Roger Applegate. I don't want to keep saying that. Roger is a wildlife biologist with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. And before the show started, Roger and I were talking about all the many hats that Roger wears. He also works on disease, and he works on small game, and he works on the turkey populations. And Roger, we appreciate you being on here today.
Good to be here.
Good to have you in here. And before we get there, though, with Roger, Jason, I also want to remind everyone that the bag limit this year is 4 birds. It's pretty good.
Yes.
It's a good bag limit. No more than 1 a day. Make sure it's bearded. Shot size has to be
4 or smaller.
4 or smaller.
Yep.
You don't want to go out there with that number 2 shot or something. There was a time in Tennessee where you could use number 2, and the agency got rid of it a decade or so ago. It's a little dangerous to be out there hunting birds with that. But right. 4 or smaller, and you can use archery equipment.
That's right. Yep.
If you're better than a whole lot of people, you can use archery equipment.
And we want to make note that, what is it, page 35 we said earlier?
Page 35 on the guide.
Latest hunting guide?
That's right, and it's laying out in front of me just in case. And it's once it comes out in this hard copy, if you don't know all that, once it comes out in the hard copy, you can find it on our website at tnwildlife.org. We say that site a lot, but it's out there. It's out there electronically, and you can just go through it. So if you're into the iPhones or the smartphones, and you like sitting at the house looking at stuff,
or on your app.
Or on your app. That's right.
iPad, iPhone, wherever.
iPad, for sure. iPads are great for that stuff, too. So it's all out there. I'm glad the season's here for you. I'll let a lot of y'all go turkey hunting. I'm probably going to go looking for crappie. So anyway.
We can do a little bit of that, too.
We can. All right. Well, good luck to everyone. Roger, you've got a big job up there, and you also have a historic program that started with the turkey population a long time ago. When I think of turkey from way back, I think of Jack Murray, even though there's some work before Jack came along. But Jack Murray was a biologist for this agency who worked real hard on the turkey population, helped rekindle along with them great folks across the state who worked out in the field. Are we doing okay in Tennessee with our birds?
Well, we really are. We have a hunting season open in every one of our 95 counties in the state, which is tremendous. We started out our first turkey seasons, and I believe the first spring turkey season we had after the restoration really started to take hold in the state was like maybe only 6 or 8 counties, and we've built all the way to the point we have turkeys and we can hunt turkeys in every county in the state. So it's pretty tremendous.
And Roger, I don't know how long that you weren't here during, I think, the very early days of restoration. You've been here the last few years, but I can remember going up to Jack Murray's office and seeing all these pins across the board as they were spreading across the state and doing just like what you said, now open in every county across the state, and has been for a while.
Yes.
Well, do you know about how many birds are in the state population?
We don't really, but the way we can kind of tell the numbers of birds is really more by just the harvest and the number of birds that get taken each year, and of course varies a little bit from county to county, but we're killing in the neighborhood of around up to as much as 30,000 birds a year. So
30,000.
that tells us that we've probably got considerably more than that.
Okay.
So,
and that's been pretty normal the last few years,
yes.
right around that 30,000. And on the TWRA TV part of it, if you're watching, you were seeing some of the restoration that took place. Rocket nets were very important and vital, catching birds and spread them, almost like Johnny Appleseed across the state. Is that how we did it?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the boxes that we're seeing there from the NWTF are extremely important in transporting those things and getting them everywhere that we needed them, and to get our population where it is today. There are some folks, Roger, that think of wild turkeys, not hunters, but there are some folks that now say we have nuisance issues with turkeys. How does one handle that? What do y'all talk about up in the wildlife division?
There are a few of those cases. Most of the kinds of cases are just turkeys that sort of get afoul of people in their backyards in sort of suburban type situations, like here in Nashville, for example, on the edge of places like the reservoirs and those kinds of things. And they're really relatively minor, and generally folks go out and they'll just catch them and then just take them out to a more rural place and release them. Other times we do have some larger flocks of turkeys that cause some problems, and generally, again, those get caught and then they just get taken somewhere.
Okay, so that's the restoration era is over, but some birds still being trapped because of a few nuisance issues.
Yes.
And being taken to other places. All right. And of course, this is a time of year where you got to absolutely be careful when you're out there. Make sure that you're safe, because turkeys, you don't have to wear orange in the turkey season, and you don't want to be seen because their eyes are so good. So be extra careful. Our turkey hunting is generally, and it might be outside your realm a little bit, Roger, but turkey hunting is generally pretty safe in Tennessee, isn't it?
I think it's quite safe in Tennessee.
I think we may have had, I can think of one accident we had a couple of years ago, somebody shooting at movement, but that's the only one I can remember in recent years.
Yeah, there haven't been many that I can think of either.
Okay.
Something they talk about in Hunter Ed too is stay away from the red handkerchiefs and the white handkerchiefs. You don't be having one of those in your pocket, because
don't do that.
Yeah, throw off a hunter.
And always, if you're hunting on a wildlife management area, be real careful about how you transport it. Once you carry it out, carry it in an orange mesh bag or something like that while you're leaving a place. Speaking of WMAs, wildlife management areas, a lot of them are open across the state and managed pretty well for turkeys.
Yes.
And
many of them are doing a really good job managing for turkeys and having opportunities for turkey hunting, and some of them have a few restrictions and things like that, drawings and special situations. But.
Okay, it's something worth looking at to see if it might fall within what will make your season all that much better. And if you don't have public access, then I think the agency manages over 1 million acres of land, so you can go out there and find you a piece of property to hunt on and just do your research, look in that guide and get it done. Roger, the population overall for turkeys is good. Are we having any concerned areas in the state, or do turkeys sometimes fluctuate in and out of some areas and people get concerned and they shouldn't be?
By and large, in the state, we're doing really well. We're seeing populations sort of where you would expect them to be. We're in a period, as you mentioned earlier. We got finished with the restoration, several years ago, so we're not having to restock in different places. And so there's kind of an interesting thing that happens when you're restoring turkey populations, and that is they'll kind of tend to build up. Once they establish in an area, they'll build up. They may build up to fairly high numbers for a period of time, and this is just kind of a natural process. And then there's a point where they have to sort of balance out with the habitat and the conditions that are available for them. And so we're kind of in that mode in most parts of the state right now.
Okay, is that, using the word I've heard y'all use for years, is carrying capacity? Is that what, not enough food out there, or at some level you just get to where there's not enough habitat?
It's really a combination of there just simply isn't enough habitat. So there's basically the turkeys are utilizing everything that is usable by turkeys, all the woods, the fields that are available. And of course, what you got left over are places turkeys can't use, like parking lots and obvious large agricultural field situations that just don't have habitat.
Okay, but Do you see us keeping? Well, do you see us keeping the bag limits at where it is right now at 4? I know you're not the commission, and this is the season for this year is already set. But are we in good enough shape that you'll see the bag limit for the sportsman down the road stay at 4? Will it go up? Will it go down? Who knows?
Yeah, of course, it's hard to determine that, but at this point, I don't really anticipate that we would want to make too much change.
Okay, and this is the spring season. We also have a fall season, and we can get back in here and talk about that. But when someone goes on, you can look at the harvest reports, and I suggest going on and go under our website under for hunters and pull down the menu, and you'll see harvest reports. But if you go in there, it can be a little confusing if you're not watching what you're doing because you count the fall harvest toward the total harvest every year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And 31,000 birds in the spring. About how many in the fall?
The top is around 1,800, 1,800, and it'll run. You could say the average is probably around 1,500.
Okay, and not to get too much into the fall because that's a long way off, but it's in either sex in that case.
Yes.
That's when you actually can go out and not have to worry about the beard. Do you think that'll stay that way for a while?
It's hard to say, but again, the thing about the fall season is it's quite a different thing than the spring season. Not as many people targeting turkey specifically. And also in the fall, the numbers are just numbers of people hunting are just not what they are in the spring. Spring turkey hunting is really the big hurrah.
It is for sure. I mean, in the fall, I guess you're starting to think about those deer and a lot of other stuff too. But some folks get out and have a really good time. Anyway, all of it is in the guide. I can't say that enough. I guess if you have the hunting guide from last fall, your turkey season's in there also, and it has been now for several years. So hopefully you're getting used to that. Well, what else on turkey, Roger? What should folks, anything in mind that we need to be telling them about the population of the coming year? Any concerns?
Really, I guess the most important for people to know is that we're really kind of on it in terms of doing the best we can to keep track of where turkeys are and the numbers and that kind of thing, keeping track of the harvest so that we're very on top of trying to respond to anything that happens. We look at trends, so we don't look at necessarily year-to-year comparisons. We look at trends over time, what's happening with turkeys. And right now we've got, we're in really pretty good shape for the most part.
So a year or two doesn't make a trend.
A year or two doesn't. So if it turns out this spring right now, our harvest is a little bit less than it was last year, it doesn't mean there's been a big change in turkey populations.
And that reminds me, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was telling me he had a farm down one of the counties in Middle Tennessee, and he said he didn't have as many birds on as he used to have on there. But I've heard that from all counties for years. So do birds just sometimes come in and come out, or do they disappear for a few years because of predation, or is it just a natural for them to fluctuate into different areas?
It definitely is, and of course, all kinds of things can happen on a local basis. On an individual farm basis or just an area. Lots of things can happen. There's trends in agriculture,
right? That,
for example, a lot has to do with haying, because a lot of nests get established in hay fields or grass fields, and so if you get a kind of season where the mowing takes place earlier, and you're going to have some nests that are going to get destroyed, disrupted. Of course, they're going to re-nest, but re-nesting is a little bit later. And then, generally the clutch size, the numbers of chicks produced off a re-nest is not as high as it is on the first nesting. So, that'll have a little bit to do with locally with the population. And just anything that really changes the structure or the quantity of the habitats that's in an area can cause all kinds of things. And predation, I mean, we know that's a factor it's been influencing turkey populations always, but you can get some localized situations where almost any of these kinds of factors can cause a change in the numbers. So fluctuation is kind of the normal situation.
All right, and when they have their young, they hatch out, I know it used to be, Roger, just a long time ago when I talked to Jack back in the days when the population was growing, he liked to see anything above, I think it was 2.5. I might be wrong on that, poults, or maybe it was 5 poults per. It's been a long time ago. What do we like to see now, or is that taken into consideration?
It's taken into consideration, and really the interesting thing about the mode where we are now is that whereas during the restoration part of this whole process, when we needed populations to be really productive so that they would increase quickly and occupy the areas where we were stocking them, now that we're at that stocked phase, the number of poults per hen can be a lot less.
Okay,
and so
makes
we're
sense.
down closer to the 2 to 2.5 range now, and that's natural.
I want to say it was 5.2, which
Yeah.
I believe back in those days. But
Yeah.
that makes sense to me now. And when they get the days that I remember talking with him more too, when it gets to August, then that's when they generally will often get on to the population. We'll make it into the population.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, good to hear all that. I want to talk to you a little bit too about diseases. You study. That's what you do. Also, you worry over what diseases might be here, and you have to be almost like a doctor when it comes to that with all your terminologies. I think is Tennessee a state that has a whole lot of wildlife disease in it. I mean, just general any wildlife disease with turkeys, deer, small game, raccoons, whatever.
We have pretty much a normal amount of disease, and of course that's a natural factor that always affects all of our wildlife populations, everything from songbirds to deer and bears, and it's a normal part of that process that we account for, when we're managing. The diseases that are probably that most people think about in terms of here is, we periodically have these outbreaks of EHD, which is, a viral disease that affects our deer.
Usually late summer, early fall.
Usually late summer, early fall. Sort of keyed in on droughty periods, a lot of times like where you've had kind of a droughty summer.
5 or 6 years ago, we had a terrible time.
We had a really bad one, and we've not had one of that magnitude since.
Question on that real quick, though. You think the deer population has grown? And a lot of it was in the mid-state. You think a lot of that population rebounded since then?
Yes.
Okay. They can rebound that quickly, huh?
Yeah, within 1 to 2 years, you can move it back. And then the other thing that's important about that virus is that, the deer that do survive it, it's kind of like, a person getting some of the viruses we get. You get immunity to it. And so those deer that have had it and have made it through it, they're immune to it, and the does that survive, they pass that immunity to their fawns.
Okay.
So that's why we get a little bit of a lag, and so that disease doesn't come around all the time.
All right, and a question, and there's so much, we only have a couple minutes left. We can do a whole disease show sometime if you come back down there and talk with us, but is there anything that's known to spread a disease in any of our wildlife to people? Should they be concerned, or is this a matter of always cooking the meat properly?
Yeah, of course, the thing that I caution people on the most in terms of cooking meat is if you're handling and cooking wild hogs.
Yeah, and I need to be careful of that too. There's all kinds of diseases out there. I mean, there's the rabies, which is a whole nother subject, and the wild hogs are something you would eat, but there are things that can bite you that can make you sick, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But as far as something that you hunt for game, then wild hogs are where you need to be concerned.
That's the biggest concern.
Okay, and what is in a wild hog that's of concern?
The one that we're most concerned about would be brucellosis, which people can get. It makes them very sick. Usually it's not a deadly disease necessarily, but it can make you really sick.
And we get questions. Sometimes folks get a little bit mad because the way we are handling a lot of hogs across the state now is just dispatching them ourselves and then getting rid of the hog because it could be dangerous to human beings, and we don't want to take that risk. Okay. One other question in this last minute or so. We got chronic wasting disease. It's been found in Arkansas. It can be devastating to a deer herd or an elk herd. In about 30 seconds, Roger, what does it do to a herd, and why do we want to keep it out?
Well, we want to keep it out because it can cause a decrease in the numbers and it can also affect people's attitudes toward hunting deer.
Okay.
And we don't want that to happen.
And you see the star up there. That's where it was found in Arkansas, about 200 miles away from us. So we're not freaking out on it or anything, but if it comes, there's a plan for it, right?
Right.
Okay, we'll get more into chronic wasting disease another day. Roger, you were great. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, everybody, we got to go. Tune in. We're out there all the time, all right? The show's always there, and we'll have a new one next week. Jason, I want to hear a turkey report next week.
All right, I'll try to have you one.
All right, everybody, tune in, tnwildlife.org. You can always find us out there. Scroll down, and you'll see us right there, okay? It's easy to find us on all the things Jason talked about early in the show. Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.